Welcome to the only patient advocate podcast you'll ever need. In this podcast, you'll learn how to advocate for yourself and your family, and where to turn when if that becomes overwhelming. Now, here's your host, Joyce Schulz-Killian, registered nurse and owner of At Your Request Patient Advocate, LLC. She is your private patient advocate. Here at your request to communicate, educate, and advocate with and for you.
Hi everyone, I'm Joyce Schulz-Killian, a registered nurse for 27 years and in healthcare since I was 18 years old. I'm the owner of At Your Request Patient Advocate, LLC. I'm here at your request because I am your private patient advocate, helping you navigate healthcare one puzzle piece at a time by educating, advocating, and communicating with and for you. I'm hoping to give you the tools you need to be your own best private advocate. Find me on Facebook at Your Request Patient Advocate, and on Instagram at JSKICURN, and on Twitter at RN Advocate for You, the number 4 and the letter U. Hit like and subscribe if you like what you're here, and tell your friends. Today we're going to be talking about care for the caregiver. Let's start by defining what a caregiver is. Caregiver, a family member or paid helper who regularly looks after a child or a sick, elderly, or disabled person. It is a noun. Definition from the Oxford Languages Online. There are several different types of caregivers out there that we're going to talk about today. The most common types of caregiver is the family caregiver, someone who takes care of a family member without pay. The other types of caregivers are professional caregivers, independent, private, informal, and volunteer caregivers. Today we will discuss the family caregiver. Caregiving can be very rewarding, but it can also be very stressful, especially over time. Caregiving can also have many rewards. For most caregivers, being there when a loved one needs us is a core value of ours and something a lot of us wish to provide for our family members. Caregiving is not an easy task and at times can be very stressful and overwhelming. People don't understand that as they get into the roles. Over time, expect a shift in roles and emotions. It is natural to feel angry, frustrated, exhausted, alone, or sad. I know it's hard to think about that if you're not or in the beginning processes of this, but as time goes on, there's expectations and resentment, and I always say resentment is the death of all relationships, whether it be friends, family, or other. So caregiving stress, the emotional and physical stress of caregiving is very common, especially over time. People who experience caregiver stress can be vulnerable to changes in their own health. Risk factors for caregiver stress include, but are not limited to, having to live with the person you're caring for. That can be even more difficult than going there on a daily basis if you're living with them 24 hours a day. Being socially isolated and unable to leave the situation. If you've lost contact with your friends or people that you've normally hung out with, don't have a big social support system, that's going to leave you feeling isolated. Having existing depression, if there are financial difficulties, if there's a high number of hours spent caregiving because, especially without a break, if the caregiver has a lack of coping skills or has difficulty problem solving, if you did not have a choice in being a caregiver. Sometimes if we're pushed into a different situation, we can be resentful of that. Caregiving stress shows up in many forms. As a caregiver, you may be focused on your loved one, that you don't realize that your own health and well-being are suffering. Watch for these signs of caregiver stress. Feeling overwhelmed or constantly worried. Feeling tired often. Getting too much sleep or not enough sleep. Gaining or losing weight unexpectedly. Becoming easily irritated or angry. Losing interest in activities you used to enjoy, feeling sad, having frequent headaches, bodily pain, or other physical problems, Abusing alcohol and drugs, including prescription medications, all very common when you're under a lot of stress, especially caregiver stress. Too much stress, especially over a long period of time, can harm your health. As a caregiver, you're more likely to experience symptoms of depression or anxiety. Think about it. If you are there in that house all day, there isn't a lot to look forward to unless you have relief. In addition, you may not get enough sleep or physical activity or eat a balanced diet, which increases your risk of medical problems such as heart disease and diabetes. Poor diet can cause diet disturbances of diarrhea and constipation. You cannot pour from an empty cup. If you haven't replenished yourself, you are no good to anyone else, especially the person you're caring for. I tell people that all the time. What caregivers need most? Caregivers need physical and emotional support are what most caregivers need. Physical help to care for your senior loved one includes help with daily tasks, decision making, preparing meals, running errands, and performing chores. Also, caregivers need emotional support to deal with the stress of caring for an elderly person. I suggest if you do not have a really strong support system that you seek a professional to be able to share with. I talk to a counselor on a regular basis because I have a lot of baggage. I take care of a lot of people. That caregiving stress that I do adds up over time. So once a month, I speak with somebody and get all these feelings out in a safe environment. Strategies for dealing with caregiver stress. The emotional and physical demands involved with caregiver can... The emotional and physical demands involved with caregiving can strain even the most resilient person. That's why it's so important to take advantage of the many resources and tools available to help you provide the care for your loved one. Do not expect to do it all on your own. Remember, if you don't take care of yourself, you won't be able to care for anyone else. To help manage caregiver stress, accept help. Be prepared with a list of ways others can help you and let the helper choose what he or she would like to do. For instance, a friend can make an offer to take the person you care for on a walk a couple times a week, or a friend or family member may be able to run an errand, pick up your groceries, or cook for you. Having a calendar for others to add times to add times to that they can relieve you and provide a form of relief is a great tool. Sharing your Google Calendar, your iCloud, or Outlook calendar is a great way to schedule multiple family members to help at different times. We've done this multiple times with Google Calendars and we share them and people fill in times. Others can see when help is needed and schedule accordingly. Even if they are just running an errand or picking up prescriptions, every little bit helps, and you don't realize that at first. Stop saying no to people. Say yes more often, and say no to people when they're asking you to do things. Focus on what you're able to provide. It is normal to feel guilty sometimes, but understand that no one is a perfect caregiver. Believe that you are doing the best you can and making the best decisions you can at any given time. Also know if care is suffering because of stress and overwhelm, do not hesitate to reach out and ask for help, even professional help if needed. I'm not going to be able to stress that enough. You cannot pour from an empty cup. If you don't take care of yourself, you're not going to be able to take care of anybody else. Set realistic goals. Break large tasks into smaller steps that you can do one at a time and ask for help. Prioritize, make lists, and establish a daily routine. Begin to say no to requests that are draining, such as hosting holiday meals or other tasks that do not benefit the schedule at hand. Make sure that you are not overextending yourself where it does not benefit you or your loved one. Caregiving is a job in itself. People that have other jobs, I just give you so much credit because it is a 24-hour job. Because if you're not there, you're usually thinking about what's happening while you're not there. Get connected. Find out about caregiving resources in your community. Many communities have classes specifically about the disease your loved one is facing. So much online available now. Each disease has a .org for it. And you can look up how to specifically manage a certain disease like Parkinson's. Caregiving services such as transportation, meal delivery, or housekeeping may be available at little or no cost. Day programs may be available as things are opening up. You just don't know until you ask. I called recently about a couple of day programs that have opened back up. There's one at the Lutheran Home in Arlington Heights called Cherish Day Place. That one is opening back up, and it has a waiting list right now. They're not at full capacity, but they are opening up. Join a support group. A support group can provide validation and encouragement as well as problem-solving strategies for difficult situations. People in support groups understand what you may be going through. A support group can also be a good place to create meaningful friendships. It provides validation for your feeling and lets you know you are not alone. That's the most important part, is knowing you're not alone. Some people in this, when they're a caregiver, think, oh my God, this is only happening to me, and how can I manage this? And you're not alone in this, and you're doing a great job. People aren't told that enough. Seek social support. Make an effort to stay well connected with family and friends who can offer non-judgmental emotional support. You don't want to go to Aunt Sally or Karen who is going to judge you. Go to somebody who understands and has been there. Set aside time each week for connecting, even if it's just a walk with a friend. That's really important. Kind of like when you first get into a relationship, you're kind of spending all your time with that new person. This is that kind of commitment that you're making to your loved one, and you need to schedule the time if you need to, but make sure you have scheduled free time to regroup and refresh yourself away from your loved one. That is so key. Set personal health goals. For example, set goals to establish a good sleep routine. Find time to be physically active on most days of the week. Eat a healthy diet and drink plenty of water. Join a yoga, tai chi, or meditation class. The yoga, tai chi, chair yoga, your family member might be able to join in. Again, there are so many things, online resources now, yoga online, all kinds of, a lot of the yoga places are doing online classes. So Tai Chi is wonderful, very slow, meaningful movements that most anybody can do. And there's a Move 1 Million movement out there from Chris Powell and his gang, which is kind of a very slow, just move your body kind of thing every day. Many caregivers have issues with sleeping. Not getting quality sleep over a long period of time can cause health issues. If you have trouble getting a good night's sleep, talk to your doctor and ask for help. See your doctor. Don't put off regular visits or the care that you need, because those checkups and visits are essentially important. Get recommended vaccinations, checkups, labs, and health screenings. Make sure to tell your doctor that you're a caregiver. Don't hesitate to mention any concerns or symptoms you have. Take care of your own health issues in a timely manner. Don't put things off thinking they'll get better. They may not. And then where will you be? And where will your family member be? I always tell people, have a plan B. I say, what would happen if you woke up at 2:00 in the morning sitting on the side of the bed with chest pain? What would you do with your loved one if you knew that you couldn't leave them? What would happen to them? You need to have a plan B so that you can take care of yourself, because again, you can't take care of somebody else if you haven't taken care of yourself first. Respite care. It may be hard to imagine leaving your loved one in someone else's care, but taking a break can be one of the best things you can do for yourself, as well as the person you're caring for. Most communities have some type of respite care available, such as an in-home respite. Healthcare aides can come to your home and provide companionship, nursing services, or both. It's very rare to find this services, but one never knows. Keep checking your resources. This could be, especially in a hospice type situation, they could come to your house and stay. But that is very rare. Adult care centers and programs. Some centers provide care for both older adults and young children. The two groups together may spend time together, and many are reopening now, and it would pay to get on a wait list. Like I said, Cherish Day Place in Arlington Heights is now open, and they do have a wait list. There's one in West Dundee. I have not checked on that one yet to see if they are opening. I know CJE is open. They do a day program at CJE. Short-term nursing home. Some assisted living homes, memory care homes, and nursing homes accept people needing care for short stays while caregivers are away. That's called a respite stay. And you can plan that for a special event that's happening, maybe a trip that you're taking, maybe just time to just replenish and refresh yourself. Long-term care or assisted or support living. If they qualify or the funds are there, just consider it. If what you are doing is full-time and you are struggling, it may be time to consider placement for all of your sakes. Again, if you're not in the best of care, if you're not in the best of shape or care yourself, it's hard to care for somebody else. And sometimes we just have to accept our limitations and sometimes just say that the care we're providing could possibly be provided at a long-term care place, much more provided in a much more better way by several people. One person doing the care over and over again can get extremely tedious and get, again, very resentful. But sometimes in difficult situations, having many people coming into the home or coming into a situation makes it easier to handle. For the caregiver who works outside the home, oh my gosh, God bless you. Nearly 60% of caregivers work outside of the home. If you work outside of the home and you're a caregiver, you may begin to feel overwhelmed very quickly. If you do, think about taking a leave from your job for a period of time. Employees covered under the Federal Family and Medical Leave Act may be able to take up to 12 weeks of unpaid leave a year up to 12 weeks of unpaid leave a year to care for relatives. Again, it's unpaid leave. It's not paid for by anybody, so you would have to have the resources to do that. Ask your Human Resources office about options for unpaid leave. This is it's a basic form that a doctor fills out saying that you just have to be away. If taking time off isn't an option, think about hiring in-home help or asking for more from those around you. Remember, you aren't alone. If you're like many caregivers, you have a hard time asking for help. Unfortunately, this approach can lead to feeling isolated, frustrated, and even depressed or resentful. Rather than struggling on your own, take advantage of local resources for caregivers. To get started, check out your elder care locator. We have ElderWorks out in Palatine. I have a ElderWorks Bible. It is my total resource guide. Contact your local area agency of aging, the AAA, to learn about services in your community. Call your local community. If you reside in Schaumburg, they have an amazing community programs out there. You can find your local AAA online or in the government section of your telephone directory. Do they even make a telephone directory anymore? I'm trying to think of the last time I received a yellow book. It is important to state as a caregiver, you can't give what you do not have to give. We all want to have superpowers and be able to do it all, but you know what? We can't. I've tried and it doesn't work. Think of all the things we've discussed. They are all resources and tools for you to use. Take advantage of the help, the groups, and if you are still unsure, call. I will give you the tools you need, because if you aren't able to help for your loved one, who will? That's my spiel on care for the caregivers. I have so many stories of family members. It's generally way too late when they're finally realizing that they can't care for a family member. I had a loved one who promised his wife that he would not put her in a facility. That's something that they talked about early on in their marriage, what they both wanted. Then she developed early onset Alzheimer's, and he tried as much as he could to keep her at home, brought in caregivers, a companion for her, and it got to the point where they were standing in the shower together crying when he realized he couldn't do it any longer. And then he realized that it was probably a little too late. But what can you do then? Hindsight's a wonderful thing. So on that note, I would like to thank you all for listening. If you like what you hear, please hit like and subscribe and tell your friends. I would like to thank everyone who helped me take the plunge into this podcast and with all my dreams I've had in the past 8 years. Remember, I am your private patient advocate, and I'm here at your request to help you navigate the healthcare system one puzzle piece at a time by educating, advocating, and communicating with and for you. I'm here at your request because I am your private patient advocate. Find me on Facebook at Your Request Patient Advocate, and on Instagram at JSKICURN, and on Twitter at RN Advocate, the number 4 and the letter U. So RN Advocate for you. Hit like and subscribe and tell a friend. I'm also on YouTube as Request an Advocate. You can find my podcast where you find all your other podcasts. And again, hit like and subscribe if you like what you hear, and tell a friend.